If you have two locations and you want to find the distance between the two of those places, on a coordinate plane, you can use the distance formula. So if you were to pull up a map and you wanted to figure out how far away those two places were, you can put those coordinates in, and what you do is you take your x distance and you subtract those and square them, and then you take your y distances, subtract those, square them, add those two numbers together, and then take the square root of those. So that is a formula that normally you would have to memorize, but that's not as easy to memorize as the Pythagorean Theorem would be. So my suggestion, instead of using the distance formula, I would say take your two lines and try to create a triangle. And you want to make sure that that triangle is a right triangle. So I would connect these. This angle right here would be my 90-degree angle. And then I would count the distance for this side. So count the boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Count the distance on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this is your missing distance that you want to find. So we use our Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My a squared was 4. My b squared is 8 squared. And then we don't know what c is, so we can put an x. 4 times 4 is 16. 8 times 8 is 64. And then we leave x squared as that. 16 plus 64 would give you 80. The opposite of doing a square root, an opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. So I do that to both sides. And then 80 is really close to 81. The square root of 81 is 9. So this is not going to be a perfect square, but it's going to be close to 9. So that's going to be about 8.9. So we would say our distance is about 8.9, either miles or meters or inches or feet, whatever the distance you're trying to find. So you could use the distance formula. It would give you the same answer. It would just take a little bit more work. What I would do is I would match these up. I would say, oh, this is x squared. This is my x. This is my x, and my y. This is my first point. This is my second point. So x squared, I would have to look for x squared. Which one is my x squared? 3. And then I would look for x sub 1. Sorry, this is x sub 2 and x sub 1. So x sub 1, -5. Y sub 2 is 2. And then y sub 1 is 6. So we would put all of these numbers into our formula. 3 minus -5 squared plus 2 minus 6 squared, all taking the square root. 3 minus -5, that really means add, so 3 plus 5 is 8 squared plus -4 squared, which is 64, plus 16, and that gives us the same thing, the square root of 80, which is about 8.9. But I'll show you some really easy ones. So if it's asking, hey, what's the distance between this point and this point? Why would you want to do all of the square root and the squaring if you can just say, oh, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. My distance is 4 units. So this instance, we actually like graphs. Same thing from here. Oh, I want to know the distance between this point and this point. Just count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units apart. So my suggestion is to put it on a graph and then either count it if it's easy to count, and if not, then make a triangle and use the Pythagorean theorem.